Footsteps in the Dark, a scary story from Reddit. Subscribe to Scary Stories Vault for great videos to relax, study, or just enjoy. The soft glow of the afternoon sun filtered through the curtains of Sarah's living room as she sat at her desk, working from home like she had done countless times before. The day had been countless times before. A small argument with her boyfriend, Josh, had left her feeling uneasy, but they had both gone their separate ways. Him to his job at the bank and her to her home office to finish her work. The fight had been over something trivial, something that she couldn't even remember clearly now, but the emotions lingered, and she was grateful for the quiet of the empty apartment to help her focus. She sighed, glancing at the clock on her computer screen. It was just past 2 in the afternoon, still hours before Josh would be home. Suddenly, Sarah's concentration was interrupted by a sound she hadn't expected. The distinct creak of the front door. Her heart skipped a beat. Had Josh come home early? Maybe he had left work to apologize or to talk things over. She waited, ears straining to catch the sound of his voice, but instead she heard only the heavy, deliberate footsteps. They moved slowly across the hardwood floors, their rhythm somehow off, not like Josh's usual confident stride. "Josh?" she called out hesitantly, her voice echoing in the quiet apartment. No response. Her pulse quickened as the footsteps continued, now moving closer to the bedroom, where she sat just beyond the door. The air around her seemed to thicken with each slow step. She pushed back from her desk, her chair scraping lightly against the floor as she stood. The footsteps stopped just outside the bedroom door. She held her breath, waiting for Josh to enter, but the door didn't open all the way. Instead, it creaked just enough for her to see a hand slip through the gap. It was a woman's hand, pale, with long, perfectly manicured red nails. The vibrant red of the polish contrasted sharply against the pale skin, making it stand out in the dim light. Sarah's heart lurched in her chest. That wasn't Josh. That wasn't anyone she knew. The hand lingered for a moment, as though the person on the other side was deciding whether or not to push the door open. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Sarah wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, but fear had her frozen in place. Then, just as suddenly as the hand had appeared, it was gone. The door closed softly, the slow footsteps retreating back down the hallway. For a few moments, Sarah stood there, her mind racing to make sense of what she had just seen. It had to be Josh's sister, she thought, trying to calm herself. Maybe she'd stopped by unannounced and was playing a prank on her, but that explanation felt flimsy at best. Josh's sister never visited, and she certainly didn't have keys to the apartment. Heart pounding, Sarah forced herself to move. She tiptoed to the bedroom door and pulled it open, her breath shallow with anticipation. The hallway was empty, and everything was deathly still. She crept down the hallway toward the living room, her eyes scanning every shadow and corner for signs of someone. Anyone. The apartment was exactly as she had left it. The front door was closed and locked. The windows were shut, but something was wrong. The air was thick with a strong, overwhelming scent, perfume. It was heavy and floral, the kind that clung to the skin for hours, but it wasn't her perfume, and it certainly wasn't Josh's. A chill ran down her spine as she made her way to the kitchen, where the smell seemed strongest. Nothing seemed out of place at first glance. The dishes were stacked neatly, and her morning coffee mug still sat on the counter. But then, something caught her eye, the kitchen scissors. They were gone. She remembered using them earlier in the day to open a package, and she was certain she had left them on the counter. Now, they had simply disappeared. A deep sense of unease settled in her stomach. Someone had been in the apartment, and they hadn't taken her laptop, her phone, or anything of value, just the scissors. Her mind raced with dark possibilities. What if the person was still inside? What if they had taken the scissors for something far more sinister than she could imagine? She backed out of the kitchen, every nerve on edge, and grabbed her phone. Her fingers shook as she dialed Josh's number, the ringing in her ear feeling like an eternity. "Hey," Josh's voice finally answered, casual and unaware of the terror creeping into her voice. "Josh," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady, "are you home?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, then a confused chuckle. "No, I'm still at work. Why?" Her stomach twisted. I thought you were here. I heard footsteps, and, Josh, someone was in the apartment. I saw a woman's hand, and now the scissors are missing." Silence. For a moment, she thought the call had dropped. Then Josh spoke again, his voice suddenly serious. "What do you mean someone was in the apartment? Are you sure you didn't imagine it?" "I'm sure, Josh," she said, her voice trembling. "There was a woman. I heard her. And the scissors, they're gone." Josh cursed under his breath. "I'm leaving work now. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Just stay in the bedroom and lock the door. Don't open it until I get home." Sarah nodded, even though he couldn't see her. She backed into the bedroom and locked the door, her mind racing through the terrifying possibilities of what might happen next. She strained to hear any sound, any sign of movement, but the apartment was unnervingly quiet. The minutes dragged on like hours. She sat on the bed, clutching her phone, her heart hammering in her chest. The silence was oppressive, making her feel like she was being watched, like someone, or something, was just waiting for the right moment to strike. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she heard the front door open. Josh's voice called out to her, his tone urgent. "Sarah, are you okay?" Relief flooded through her, and she rushed to unlock the bedroom door. Josh was standing in the hallway, his eyes scanning the apartment with concern. She ran into his arms, feeling the tension in her body begin to melt away as she buried her face in his chest. "What happened?" he asked, his voice low. Sarah pulled back, her voice shaking as she recounted everything. The footsteps, the woman's hand, the smell of perfume, and the missing scissors. Josh listened carefully, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Are you sure it wasn't just a weird dream?" he asked when she finished. Sarah shook her head vehemently. "I wasn't dreaming, Josh. I was wide awake. Someone was here. And the scissors, they're gone." Josh's expression darkened. He walked through the apartment, checking every room, every closet, every possible hiding place, but there was no sign of anyone. Everything was in its place, except for the scissors. That night, they both slept fitfully, every creak of the apartment sending Sarah's heart into overdrive. She couldn't shake the feeling that whoever had been in the apartment wasn't gone. They were just waiting. The next morning, Sarah woke early, her body tense with unease. Josh had already left for work, and the apartment felt unnervingly empty. As she made her way to the kitchen to make coffee, she noticed something strange. The smell of perfume was back, stronger than ever. Her hands shook as she opened the kitchen drawer, hoping against hope that the scissors had simply been misplaced, but they were still gone. Sarah sat down at the kitchen table, her mind racing. What did this person want? Why had they taken the scissors, and why had they taken anything else? The thought that someone had been anything else, the thought that someone had been in her home, watching her, waiting for the right moment, filled her with a dread she couldn't shake. She grabbed her phone and texted Josh, her fingers flying across the screen. "The perfume is back. I think someone's been in the apartment again." Josh's reply came quickly. "Call the police." But Sarah hesitated. What would she tell them? That someone had taken her kitchen scissors and left behind a scent of perfume. It sounded ridiculous. Instead, she spent the rest of the day on edge, jumping at every noise, her nerves frayed by the constant fear that someone was watching her. By the time Josh came home, she was a wreck, and the two of them sat down to discuss what to do next. "We'll get new locks," Josh said firmly, "and I'll install some cameras. If someone's been in here, we'll catch them." Sarah nodded, but deep down, she wasn't sure if locks or cameras would make a difference. The person who had been in her apartment wasn't just any intruder. They had a purpose, a plan, and she had the sickening feeling that this wasn't over. As the days passed, the tension in the apartment only grew. Sarah could hardly focus on her work, constantly glancing over her shoulder, waiting for the next sign of the intruder. The smell of perfume would come and go, lingering in the air like a taunt. The scissors never reappeared, but nothing else was ever taken. Then one evening, as Sarah sat on the couch reading, she heard it again, the slow, heavy footsteps. They moved through the apartment with deliberate precision, just like before. Her blood ran cold, and she quickly grabbed her phone, dialing Josh's number. Before he could answer, the footsteps stopped outside the bedroom door.